Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to in the world. Welcome along to the Refuse to Lose podcast. This is episode number 3. And of course, if you're wondering about the name, we get it from the legendary Dale Earnhardt. The winner ain't the one with the fastest car. It's the one who refuses to lose. My name is Kieran McGinley. Joining me for tonight is Austin Badgerman Smith. Say hello, Austin.
Hello.
And of course, we are also joined by our We Are Not Worthy, Mr. F1 Esports himself, Mr. Justin Sutton. How are you tonight, Justin?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to chat about sim racing and esports and all that kind of stuff. I'm excited.
Yeah, you're sort of the voice of all the F1 Esports hot laps. I guess that's how everybody will know you now.
Yeah, this isn't scripted, though, so I can't script out this, unfortunately. But it's just a little too long format for me to script everything that we're doing here today. But yeah, I do the hot laps. Chris and I, King Kodiak, we trade off back and forth lead commentator. I don't know. I've always wondered if people have picked up on that. We don't actually technically do lead commentator anymore. We just trade off back and forth. The introductions, the race starts, all of that stuff.
But I mean, that shows in the rapport as well. You two have like one of the greatest relationships I think I've seen in any commentary team. So what's your secret then of building that great rapport?
Many hours of commentary together. Yeah, between F1 Esports and VGP, or the Virtual GP Championship, Chris and I spend many hours just about every week together. VGP just ended for 2019, so we have a break from that. We still have the esports going on, I think, until right up to the end of November. But yeah, from March until November, we're seeing each other almost weekly. It's just kind of worked out that way. We don't necessarily demand to work with each other. We just get lucky, I guess.
And lucky we all got, actually. So, of course, if you've never listened to the Refuse to Lose podcast before, we're basically talking about anything esports, preferably racing, with a little bit of a hint of motorsports tipped in as well. So, mainly one of the big news of the weekend that's just gone by is the fact that we have a 6-time Formula One world champion. I want to start with you, Austin. Yeah, a champion is crowned already, 2 races to go. Does that show Hamilton as a legend, or has he got a little bit more to do?
I mean, if you surpass a legend that is Juan Manuel Fangio all the way back in the 1950s, who did it 5 times, if you surpass him and you do it 6 times, there is no argument you can make that he is not a legend. Come on, yeah, he belongs in that category. He's just one short of Michael Schumacher. There's arguments about who is the greatest of all time, who's the GOAT of F1. In terms of titles, of course, it's Schumacher. He's the only one who did it 7 times. And sure, you always need a good car. That comes with the whole sport. But to do it that consistently, and Hamilton did it consistently. Yeah, he's a legend.
And obviously there is one more. Well, there's a couple of records on the line. Most race wins. He's already stolen away most pole positions and is leading that way by some distance now. Justin, are we getting into an era now where the most pole positions, there's a chance for Hamilton next season to snatch away most wins? There's a chance for him to snatch away most podiums. Is this getting into a territory where Hamilton just can't be caught in some of these records?
It really does depend on Mercedes, as Badger said. It is highly car dependent. I mean, everybody knows that. I'm not taking any sort of achievements away from Lewis. He's driven incredibly well. I think he's definitely top 10, if not top 5 in history. I do think it's hard to compare, greatest of all time. I think is a tough thing to say. It's more greatest of their time. And I have to say, Lewis probably is the greatest of his time. The rival being Sebastian, obviously, with his 4 championships in a row, 2010 through 2013. And he drove. Arguably, I think if you actually look back at the seasons where he didn't win the championship, I think he actually had higher finishing positions than Lewis when he wouldn't finish the championship. I seem to remember Lewis finishing a lot of seasons in 4th and 5th and stuff like that. But again, it's so car dependent. It's so difficult. But I do believe that Lewis is going to be the one to beat those records from Schumacher. Unfortunately for him, all of these kids coming in nowadays are even younger than he was when he came into the sport, though. So, I mean, as once the era of Max Verstappen or Charles Leclerc starts, that's when the records are going to get broken again. But I think Hamilton probably is the greatest of this time, and definitely a contender for greatest of all time. And yeah, I could definitely see him taking care of those records and just going that little bit further than Michael could. But of course, he took some years off as well.
Yeah, and I'm just having a look at his stats right now. He's had a win in every single season he's competed in Formula One. Lowest finish in the championship, 5th place. He's had 2 5th places. I think it was 2009 and 2011. He's never actually finished 3rd in a championship before.
No.
So it's only ever been 1st, 2nd, 4th or 5th. Yeah. Never 3rd. So I suppose that's not a bad duck to have. But yeah, 6 championships now, 1 to go. The question I ask the both of you now is, can he equal it? And one further than that, can he beat it? Can he be the one with the most titles?
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think he can equal it, considering, 2020, the regulations for the most part stay the same. Sure,
right.
Some are going to change, but for the most part, it's a similar car. The power structure in F1 isn't going to change. Mercedes is still going to be on top against Ferrari. Maybe Ferrari is going to be better, but maybe not. we thought the same literally every year in the past 6 years now, and it never happened. It was always Mercedes, and so I think he can equal it next year. 2021 with the rules shakeup, he needs to get lucky. Mercedes need to get lucky for the most part, or maybe he's going to change teams. There are those rumors, and maybe he gets lucky with the team change. We'll see. I think he can equal. It's going to be a lot harder to beat it and actually get an 8th title.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think matching is one thing, beating is another thing, because of how radically different 2021 is going to be. I mean, no doubt Hamilton has the skills. I don't see him, losing, forgetting how to drive sometime over the course of the next 5 years, even, honestly. He's almost exactly my age, so I never forget how old Lewis Hamilton is, because he was born in January of 1985, just like I was. So it's always easy for me to remember how old he is. And I mean, Kimi's 40. And he won a race last year, just over a year ago at Circuit of the Americas, obviously. And I would rate Hamilton higher than Kimi, even, at their primes, over the course of the full career, taking in all considerations. So, I think Hamilton has the skills. It's whether or not he's going to have the machinery to do it.
Yeah, what's going to be interesting is, obviously, you've both said the regulations in 2021, they're really going to shake up the field. It could go any way. Those cars, by the way, they look gorgeous. If we get cars that look anywhere near as good as that, I'll be very, very happy.
Same.
The one thing that gets me is how long will, the names like Raikkonen, how long will we get to see Hamilton in a car? How long will we get to see Vettel? Because, as you said, Justin, Kimi's 40 now. He's got a year left on his contract, taking him to the end of the 2020 season. You've also got Hamilton, who's 34. I believe you've got Vettel. I can't remember his age off the top of my head.
32.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he's 2 years younger.
So he's in his early 30s. But we're seeing drivers now continue into their 40s. We had that in, the 1950s and 60s when drivers saw it as a pastime. It got revolutionized when, really by Michael Schumacher, with the amount of work he put in, the training regime he had. The drivers are now as fit as they've ever been. So you could actually see drivers now, more drivers heading into their late 30s, early 40s. The question is, can they keep up with, as you said, Justin, the drivers getting, the drivers coming into Formula One younger than ever before?
I think they can. I think just looking back to the best recent season of Formula One that we've had, 2012, I think part of the reason that season was so good was because of the number of world champions that we had in there. Now, the difficulty now is that Lewis is the one kind of winning all the championships. So we haven't had very many different world champions, and Rosberg left the year that he won it. So it's going to be difficult to try and pull off that kind of grid again in the future. But I think it's important that we don't just abandon older drivers, because, they may be losing very marginal amounts in terms of like reaction times and stuff like that as they get older, but they definitely make up for it in experience. You can see in the races the differences between the young drivers and the older drivers. And I personally hope that we get, I don't want to see the exact same grid year on year out. That would be boring. But I do think it is important that we keep those old dogs in Formula One as well.
Yeah. How about you, Austin?
I can see Hamilton go till he's maybe 38, 37, 38. But I think Hamilton is the kind of guy who at some point says, you know what, there is so many good talent there, and I've fought my battles with them, but it's time to hand it over to guys like Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon, who's waiting in the wings at Mercedes, George Russell. That at some point he's just going to say, you know what, it was nice, it was fun, but man, there's so much good talent. I'm going to hand it over to them. Maybe he will pull a Schumacher and decide after a couple of years, you know what, actually I want to do this again. I wouldn't put it past Hamilton for some reason. I don't know. He strikes me as the kind of guy to also do that. To just go, okay, I can hand it over, and then a couple of years later he rethinks and he goes, you know what, I think I still got it, and he probably does. And unless he gets in such a bad car as the Mercedes was when Schumacher was in it, and Hamilton maybe gets a little luckier, then he can actually get his eighth world championship maybe then, if he doesn't do it before his first retirement. But there were so many drivers that retired on their own accord at age 36, 37. If you look at Alonso, 37, Massa, 36, Button, 36. Well, he did have that one race in 2017 at age 37, but we don't count that.
Well, I mean, Massa had 2 retirement parties, but
yeah, he did.
Yeah. Fair enough. Weber at 36. Barrichello was really, I think, the first one who took it a little bit longer when he retired at age 39. And then De La Rosa and Schumacher both took it really long. De La Rosa 41 and Schumacher at age 43, which is unprecedented. And I don't think Hamilton is going to go that far.
And still,
I don't think he's going to crack the 4.
Still, I'm mesmerized how a 42-year-old Michael Schumacher grabbed pole position at Monaco. Mesmerizing.
Chills.
Still mesmerizing. As well as that, I think if Hamilton reaches 8 titles, will he have anything left to prove? I mean, to me, there's a motivation behind Hamilton like nothing else. He loves to race. He wants to win every single time he gets in a car. That's just a racing driver. But when you're at the top of the game, if you have all the records, if you have the record amount of titles, are you in the sport because you like it, or have you proven everything? Is it time to move on? I just wonder, maybe 2 or 3 seasons down the line, if Hamilton does get his 8th title, I think he might be eager to just try a different discipline of motorsport altogether.
Or maybe he'll just move full-time to music or fashion or something like that. I mean, the guy has so many life passions, and, he's got the connections and the funds to make pretty much any dream he wants to come true. So, I mean, I could definitely see him, going into other motorsports and stuff like that. Maybe he wants to do what Alonso couldn't do, or hasn't done yet anyway. He's still working on it, and getting the Triple Crown and that kind of stuff. I could see Hamilton doing that, but also I have a feeling he's not going to get sick of breaking records until he's got like 9 championships. Because, I mean, that's what Schumacher did. He did 2 more than the previous best. And I get the same vibe from Hamilton that he wants to do that. He wants like 9 champions. Maybe he's going to go for double digits. Who knows? But yeah, I could definitely see him, going to another motorsport, or possibly just abandoning racing altogether when he finally reaches that time.
I was leaving the door open for you, Austin. I thought you were going to say something else.
I mean, I don't think he's gonna go to 9. I think he as much as he loves racing, just he loves competing, which he's in that regard, he's obviously similar with a lot of drivers, but you know, the one who obviously sticks out from the whole grid is Kimi Räikkönen, age 40, who also he's just there to have fun, you know. And that's what I could see Hamilton do once he gets if he does get number 8. But I think after number 8, it's going to be pretty much over for him, on his own accord, obviously. But I think he's just going to call it quits there. I don't think he's going to pull what Schumacher did and go for 7 or for 2 more, because with Schumacher it was a different situation. He didn't go for 7 because he wanted to top Fangio by 2 more. He got his 7th in 2004 at age, what was that, 35? Yeah, that, you know, that he the car was still great, the driver was still great. And again, we talked about it, or I mentioned it before, you know, a lot of drivers on their own accord, if they leave at age 36, 37. And so Schumacher stuck around 2005, 2006, got beaten by Alonso, and then we're already creeping up to his first retirement. So I think Hamilton is going to retire in that same span, age 36, 37, maybe 38. So I think we'll see somewhere between 2 and 4 more seasons from him.
Well, I think we should bring to an end the real life racing part. Let's go to where we're all really strong at, the esports part. Justin, there's always something I've wanted to ask. You know, you're part of the Sauber esports team. Did you ever get the chance to meet Kimi and Gio?
No, I haven't met them specifically. I have come up with content that involved them, like when we did the content at Silverstone, where Arav and Ben and the Sauber esports drivers, Sally and Danny, when all of those guys went to Silverstone and they got to meet the team and the drivers and all that kind of stuff. Some of that was planned by me, but no, I haven't. Since I'm based in Texas, I haven't had the opportunity yet to get out that way. And I didn't have the opportunity to get out to the USGP, unfortunately, this year either. But it's certainly something I'd like to do. I would love to meet Kimi and Gio. That would be fantastic. But, you know, it's fun, honestly, because I am in direct contact with the guy that does the social media for the Alfa Romeo Racing F1 team. And, you know, it's always interesting interacting with him. And then I see him like in the back of shot as Kimi's being interviewed or something like that. I'm like, oh, hey, I know him. You know, it's still been sort of like a surreal sort of experience, even being loosely tied to an organization that they're with. Because, of course, I work for Veloce, and then Veloce is partnered with Sauber Esports. So I'm not a direct employee of Sauber or Alfa Romeo or anything like that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun working with them. It's an interesting challenge, very different from what I was used to at IGP Manager, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's another question I wanted to come on to. IGP Manager. I mean, I used to do it a lot. I used to be in a league that raced every single night, and then I just thought, you know what, at 11:30, I just prefer bed.
Yep.
But you know, that's come a long way. I mean, there was a new update that came out just today. I mean, what's your fondest memory of IGP Manager, and how far did you think it could go when you first started it?
Well, when it first started with them, I actually knew that there was a lot of potential there because, I mean, honestly, the mobile gaming space is in a lot of ways a lot bigger than the console gaming space or the PC gaming space or anything like that. There's a lot more people with phones out there than there are with consoles or gaming PCs. So I always had sort of high expectations of IGP and where it's going to go and stuff. And it's grown quite a lot. As you said, you know, they've released a lot of updates and everything like that. I, like you, used to spend not every day. I think we raced 3 times a week in the AOR IGP League. And I would race with like Alex Gillen and Jeroen Kvekel and all these kind of like old dogs from the ARL days, basically. And I had a lot of fun with it, and I still play every once in a while, but I'm not as much into it as I was previously, mainly because I'm just so busy, honestly, these days. But you know, if you've got a free hour at least once per week, there are a few better ways to spend it, especially as a motorsport fan. And yeah, I truly believe that, you know, big things are coming for IGP Manager in the future. And I'm super excited that they hired Danny Brennan to replace me, because when I told them that I was going to be going over to Veloce, I said, boy, have I got the guy for you to replace me. And he's been doing amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever played it, Austin. Have you? Have you ever had the privilege?
I have played IGP Manager way back in the day. Where I think about must have been in the first year or two when it started out.
So that would have been like 2011, 2012, something like that. Like
right
years
about
ago.
there. Yeah, really years ago. It must have been then. It must have been the first year, 2011. And we had a little group where we all we knew each other from league racing on rFactor in the late noughties, and it was fun. I still remember I had an Indian female driver who was just absolutely crushing everyone. She was so good.
Yeah, the female drivers were OP.
Now,
they were 5 kilos lighter than the male drivers, so that was the pro strat to go for the female drivers.
Yeah, I just picked her up. I was like, you know what? Let's try. And she was just crushing it. But I was cycling through second drivers. I couldn't find a good one. I went with men. I went with women. I was like, what's going on here? No one was able to match her. And she was winning race after race after race. I think we did 2 seasons or so, and she was driver's champion both times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back to back.
Back to back.
So, of course, you managed to spearhead the AOR IGP Manager League. That must have been quite bizarre, commentating on basically what is what you know back to front.
Yeah. I kind of had the idea for the AOR IGP League right around the same time as AOR had the idea for the AOR IGP League. Like, it was already in the back of my mind that this was a partnership that I wanted to try and make happen. But I actually got contacted by somebody at AOR, and they said, "Hey, I was just thinking, what if we do IGP AOR?" And I said, "You know what? I've already been thinking about that. Let's go ahead and make it happen." And yeah, there were a lot of challenges. I've never run a league before in my entire life. Certainly, I've never run any sort of competitive esports sort of thing, because people take it a lot more seriously when you get to sort of that kind of level where you're getting thousands of views on a video and stuff like that. They take it a lot more seriously, and people were very, the managers that took part in the league, they were very quick to point out if they thought somebody was cheating or if the format was not ideal and they thought it should be different. And it was very, very much a learning experience for me. And it's something that we expect to continue. We do expect there to be a season 2 of the AOR IGP at some point. But I know that's kind of just the beginning, really, of esports for IGP Manager as a whole. That was them just kind of dipping their toe basically into the waters and testing it out and seeing how it went. And it went really, really well. We got a lot of views. I remember the first broadcast happening, and I was saying, boy, I would be happy if we get 100 views. And we got like 2,000, 3,000, something like that. And the viewership didn't really decline after that. I mean, it pretty much kept up for the entire time. They would advertise the races within the actual game itself in IGP Manager, where you could just, you load in to do your setup for the next race or whatever. There'd be a banner up at the top saying live now and that sort of thing. And they did a really good job of bringing the fans in, the managers from the game and all that kind of stuff, and involving everybody. And I thought it went really well. I was a little disappointed that the title didn't go down to the final race, but aside from that, I was really happy with it. And I know IGP has big plans for the future and stuff like that. And the team is bigger than it's ever been. I know the owner, Jack Basford, he's been investing a lot of time and effort into the game for almost a decade now, honestly. And I know where he wants to take it and everything. So I'm really excited to see what happens. And, I'm still very much sort of involved in IGP Manager. I still want to be the lead commentator for when AOR IGP comes back. If they ever do their own kind of world championship thing, I told them, count me in as the lead commentator, all that kind of stuff. Because Yeah, you know, it's just such a huge market on mobile. I mean, you look at esports like Clash of Clans esports. It's not something I necessarily want to watch, but lots of people do because lots of people play Clash of Clans, you know? So it's a bit weird for me as a hardcore PC gamer, but at the same time, you know, I totally get it. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun game. And it was a lot of fun doing the sort of esports side to it. It's just intricate enough, that game, to, you know, kind of make it interesting for esports, I think.
Yeah, and I think you brought back the element of refueling to everybody. And, that's quite a bizarre one. So how come there's refueling in IGP Manager? What's the thought behind that?
Well, it's just always been in IGP Manager, and I know that Jack has, you know, he's very interactive with the players of IGP, with everybody that plays the game. He'll do blogs and let people comment, and he does forum posts and stuff like that to get feedback from the fans and everything. And I think that, you know, it's just what the fans want. I mean, the only reason refueling really isn't in F1 is from a safety standpoint is the main reason, but there's racing reasons behind that as well too. But, you know, in IGP Manager, people like it. They want to keep it. You know, I know there's more customization coming to IGP Manager. For example, they have more and more tracks, like a half dozen circuits were added this year alone. So it's really growing in a big way in that respect. And I think it could happen that maybe IGP has an option where you could have refueling or not have refueling in your particular league and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've always thought it just kind of adds a little bit of an extra element of you know, just making it that little bit deeper as far as the strategy is concerned and that sort of stuff. And it rewards going for softer tires as well, because, you know, you wouldn't go for softer tires as often if you didn't have to come in for fuel. So I think it's good in the game, but I could definitely see it potentially becoming an option later on.
I mean, I'm just having a think now. You've been part of the AOR sort of commentary for 5 years now, is it? Maybe.
Yeah.
More?
Over 5 years. I think it was May 2014 that I joined what was ARL at the time.
And you're also part of Virtual GP and, you know, Formula One itself. That must be a bit of pressure on you. The official F1 Esports Challenger Series, and you've also dabbled your hand in the official F1 Esports Lap on board with Brendan Lee. That did the rounds very, very quickly when it was released. Does it ever hit you? You know, this is what I'm doing. This is what I love to do, and I'm getting to do it.
Yes. Yeah. This year in particular, I think was what really set me off because of how long the season is. Because we've been doing the 2020 qualifying rounds, the playoff series, the Challenger series. Those are the ones that Chris and I do. And it's an 18 race season, 6 races per platform, 3 platforms in the Challenger series, and then a 9 race season in the playoffs. So that's 27 50% distance races that Chris and I are doing commentary for Formula One, essentially, for the 2020 season. And that's, you know, so I was always kind of like blown away, like when they would use the clips from the qualifying rounds on the F1 account. That was always kind of like a big moment and stuff like that. But I feel like this 2020 season in particular, the one that's just coming to an end, it's really been like, wow, this is actually happening, and this is crazy. Because yeah, 27 races, that's a lot of content.
I mean, I had to fill in your shoes for one race. I could never do that. It's not possible. How can a Brit possibly sound American in any way, shape, or form? It just doesn't work. But yeah, I remember. Chris, go on, Austin. Go on.
I'm German and I sound American, so I'm pretty sure with a lot of practice,
you got it down.
Yeah, with a lot of practice, you can do it. It's not that hard, you know. The thing is, what you need to do is you just need to listen a lot to Americans and not so much to Brits, because why would you?
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but you know, you just need to listen closely to how Americans pronounce, or me, you know, pronounce certain words differently, and then I think you just need to pick up on that and repeat. That's pretty much all I'm doing, at least.
I feel like I've slowly become British, though, too. I've definitely picked up, like, I say cheeky way more than your average American, for example. That's not. I spell tire with a Y almost all the time on Twitter. You know, I've definitely picked up things here and there that I try. But the majority of the audience is at least my audience. It tends to be British, so I tend to sort of cater to that audience. Is what I try to do anyway.
And I would say as well that it's hard being British, surrounded by two American-sounding guys. Why do you drop the U? Anyway, point is, obviously, it's such a big honor to have you with us, Justin, and I hope you're going to stay around for the entire show.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of topics to talk about. So, Austin, get the first of the lovely banners across. What are we talking about first? Oh, without the U as well. That's great.
There you go.
Favorite commentary moment. So
why should I use a letter that is just absolutely useless?
Because it's right. Anyway, no, we're not going into that conversation. So basically, Austin and I have been in talks about what this topic actually means, whether it's our favorite commentary moments about somebody else, or whether it's our favorite commentary moments for commentating by us. Is that wordy enough for you?
That makes sense.
Does it? Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'll send out a postcard if you want. But so maybe we could have both. I mean, let's start off with you've got well over 5 years of experience. Can you narrow down some of your favorite moments from the past half a decade?
Actually, easily. Anytime I think about my favorite personal commentary moment, I'm reminded of the AOR Race of Champions, which was entirely dreamt up by and organized by Jeroen Kavekel, who I was race engineer for him in Formula Sim Racing, the year that he won the championship, and the year prior to that as well too, when he won the Pro Championship. I have a good relationship with him, and at the time, I think this was during FSR times actually, or possibly in between seasons, something like that. He came up with this idea that he wanted to do a race of champions, a digital race of champions, and he asked me if I wanted to do commentary for it. I said absolutely, and then I found out that it was going to be 3 or was it 4 days? It was 3 or 4 days. Back to back. So it wasn't like weeks apart or anything like that. It was like a Monday through a Thursday or a Tuesday through a Thursday, something like that. And it was about 5 to 6 hours per stream. So I actually had to take off work. I had to request vacation days at work in order to do the commentary for that. I even drove in it as well while doing commentary, and absolutely embarrassed myself in front of hundreds of people. And then I'm struggling to remember the name of the guy that was doing so well, but there was this one guy. It was a bracket tournament. So if you made it through to the semifinals, then you would go, head to head against somebody, and then you would make it into the quarterfinals, and then all so it's just your typical bracket sort of championship. And the guy that was on the right side of the bracket had just been dominating. Nobody had even come close to him. On the left side, which is where Jeroen was driving, he wasn't just the organizer, he was driving in it as well. He was doing very well. He made it all the way to the finals, but it was pretty close because there was a variety of cars that were being driven on the circuit. It was the circuit that was in the London Stadium. I forget what year of Race of Champions they did that. It was like 2011, 2012, something like that. It was a while ago. But it was that same circuit in Assetto Corsa. And he had made it to the finals, but sort of only just, whereas the guy on the other side had just absolutely dominated it. And so they went head to head in the finals, and it was a best of 7, if I remember correctly. And Jeroen lost the first 3 races. So it was looking like he was about to get swept in the finals, which nobody wants to see that.
I mean, talk about slightly on the back foot.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. And then he won the next race, and he made it 3-1 in the final. And I actually started crying. And I think part of it was the exhaustion. Again, so this was the final day now of the stream, obviously, that the final was being run on. And I think part of it was the exhaustion, just the 18 hours of commentary that I had done over the course of the last 3 days. But then just also kind of like that Cinderella story kind of moment that I think a lot of times can be lacking in sim racing sometimes. We've seen some of it this year in the 2019 F1 Esports Pro Series. But I think that's something that's really been lacking a lot of the time because of Brendan Lee's domination, to be honest. Just when he won that one race, and he got knocked out the very next race, just so you know, he ended up losing 4-1. But when he won that race, I had my own like Murray Walker getting choked up. Like I actually couldn't speak. I said, I need a minute. And I was just so emotional about that. Cause of course I'm good friends with Jeroen. I've known him for a very long time. We spent a lot of time together. So it just, it meant a lot to me personally. And that I think will probably always be my commentary highlight, unless I make it to like Formula One and an American wins a race or something like that. That will probably always be the best moment. Cause I broke down and cried. There's never been a moment like that since. And I would be surprised if there ever was again.
Well, Austin, that trumped whatever moment I had.
Yeah, I have to say, it's going to beat everything I had too.
That's a tough act to follow. Why did you go first, Justin?
Maybe that was the wrong call.
No, it's all right. For me, I think my best moment as a commentator, the one that I look back to and I think, man, that was awesome. Wasn't actually too long ago, and it mostly happened because one certain Kieran McGinley wasn't able to make it for a race.
I hear he's terrible anyway.
No, you had your reasons. I don't know why you missed that one, but it happens. I missed some races too because I had stuff to do, and so it happens. But it was the track that you do like, but you seem to always miss.
Oh, Canada,
exactly.
I was never there for it.
And so what happened was I was supposed to have a replacement for you as my co-commentator, but last minute he got pulled, had to do another race in AOR, and so I was alone. Not the situation you want to be in, but alas, here we go. And it was the first time that I've ever done commentary, and I've done it for 11 years now. I've started out in German, obviously. I mean, age 15. What do you want to do in English? Come on. If it's not your first language. And so it was the first time for me where I really felt like I was doing it on my own. I had no co-commentator to play off of, and I felt like, man, that was great. The race was exciting. There were plenty of overtakes. My camera work, I think, was the best I've ever done, and I don't like doing it. I always had something to talk about, and I put it down to one thing in particular, and that is my preparation. And Kieran, you know how I prepare.
Yep, I get the spreadsheet of every single stat I could ever need about half an hour before the race. And I quickly study that
and some you don't.
Yeah, exactly. And plenty of stats you will never need. There's about 150, 200 stats on there. Usually for one stream, you use about 5 to 10, maybe 15 if you really... If there's nothing going on in the race.
Right.
But it's hard to use that when you're alone. You have nothing to talk about with anyone else because there is no anyone else. And so I felt like it was so good. It was the first time I did a commentary alone, and I thought I ended the stream and I thought, man, that was awesome. And I don't think I'll ever forget that.
It's a good feeling.
Again, it's you're just blowing my suggestions out of the great.
Oh, come on. Now you're just...
My one was someone crashing out from the lead. My one was funny, but no. I had to make it emotional. I think what you said, Austin, when you're on your own, it can be tough, but it is tough. Mm-hmm. I started out on my own. I did solo streams by myself with an internet that could barely do it. I remember my first race in AOR. My internet couldn't handle it. it would constantly sort of be a bit laggy and everything like that. I had to move rooms because it was that bad until I found a lovely solution, which gets me to my office. But I think that the nerves as well before going live, that they're always there for me. My favourite commentary moment, though, it's tough to decide. I've been very lucky in the fact that I've had real life commentary, and my goodness, that's such a huge experience. That's such a different way of commentating for me. Normally, when I'm behind a mic, I've honed my skills at the F1 games, but I'm very passionate, as you can tell, Austin. I'm very passionate about the moves up the inside, or someone go around the outside. What a great move! I really get into the race, and when it's
you call it, hold on, you call it passionate. I call it being a fanboy.
Oh dear, no. Anyway, but yeah, so it's a different experience entirely. I think when all's said and done, I really can't decide. But similar to what Justin said, there was a Race of Champions event I was invited to, and it was by a league called OneHub. They had a Race of Champions. They had, I think it was 18. It was either 16 or 18 drivers, and they all raced for different charities. So there were 3 charities they could choose from. Any points they scored, they'd raise money for the charity. And that was such an amazing night. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. And I was, in close contact with Nick the entire time. Hello, Nick, if you're watching. And he was sort of saying, well, there's a lot of bad things that can happen in esports. It's got very competitive. Let's just have a night where that all goes away and we just have a lot of fun. One of my favorite commentary moments then in the commentary box was the race at Abu Dhabi. It was basically the finale out of 3 races, and damage was off, and somehow they went 5 wide going into the left of, I think it's 11, 12 and 13, if I can remember rightly. 5 wide on the entry. Of course it didn't end well. And they managed to, with the damage switched off, trigger a safety car. That's just was the best thing I could ever have asked for, because the fact that it was a charity one meant that you could be a little bit jokey. I still wanted to prioritize being, the lead commentator, the the one they look up to, the serious one. But when it's charity, you can get carried away with the references, with the jokes. It's for charity, and when I saw that, I just thought, that's it. That's the pinnacle. It doesn't get any better than that in a charity race.
That's incredible.
Triggering a safety car with no damage on has to be it. So thanks for making it emotional. I went thanks, guys.
I mean, look, I could have gone a different way, although it would have still been a little bit emotional, because you mentioned real life experience. It would carry us a little bit away from racing, but I think it's something that I also look back quite fondly. So in 2016, 2017, for the football season for the Brits and soccer season for the Americans, I was a commentator for a 4th division football club here in Germany. And so for their, let's say, club radio, if you will. So the good news about that is you can be partisan, or you're supposed to be partisan, because obviously you're casting from the perspective of that team, which is, you could let go a little bit more, you could have a little bit more fun there, and joke around a little bit more as well. It's not as formal, but the one game I do remember, if I told you the name of the club they played, you wouldn't understand a word, because obviously German names and all. Sure. But no. But so what happened was, it was quite an important game. It was the beginning of the second half of the season. You want to get off a good. You want to get started in the new year with a good game. And it was pretty cold because it was January, or maybe it was early February, something like that. And they were down 3-1 with, I think it was 5 minutes to play or something. And in the 85th, 86th minute, something like that, they score the 2-3. And myself and my co-commentator right next to me, we just, we were like, oh, are we gonna see something here? Is this gonna be? Will we see a comeback? And then and I'm not joking, in the 96th minute, that's how much additional time the referee gave. 96th minute, 6 minutes passed. They actually scored the equalizer, the 3-3. And we just lost it. We just went completely ham. And it was, oh my God, it was amazing. We actually, my co-commentator and I, sitting right next to each other, we actually hugged. Doing the commentary. Yeah, that's how big that goal was, because you want to get off a good start, and at least that 1 point to get there, to get off a good start in the second half of the season. The team was close to relegation by the midway point of the season, so every point counts. And if you get a point like this, hell, you take it.
I mean, it would have been funny if you were the only two celebrating that goal.
We weren't.
Well,
we weren't. I'm going to say this: we weren't the only ones hugging.
Well, that pretty much wraps up this one. That was pretty good. You went for emotional, I went for funny. Then Austin, in retaliation, went, "Oh, I've got a funny one too." Thank you for backing me up, Austin. That's great. What's the next one then? What have you got lined up for us next? Oh, inspiration. Go on, Austin. What are we looking for here?
We're looking for basically what keeps us going. All three of us, we do commentary. All three of us in sim racing. Some of us venture out in some capacity, some way, but we all do commentary. And what just what keeps us going? What inspires us to do that every week, or in Justin's case, 3 times a week when the Challenger Series is on, which is just something I would never do. I don't see myself I would do it if F1 Esports calls, but
Hello,
just 3 days back to back to back. But what keeps us going? What makes us continue, and what inspires us to do commentary over and over and over again?
I do. We let Justin start last time and he blew us out of the
I'll let someone else start this time.
Well, okay, so my inspiration, we touched on it, Austin, in the last episode, where I was saying, the first real commentary duo that I heard was James Allen and Martin Brundle. And I grew up with that. I grew up with them, listening to them. So I've always got that sort of fondness of that commentary duo. And I think as well, I mean, Chris was in the chat last week, Justin, saying I'm too young to have Murray Walker as an inspiration. I think he's right. But you look back at some of the best commentary moments from Murray Walker, and the Murrayisms. It's the Murrayisms that make it. The fact that you've got someone up there who's so passionate he loses his train of thought. It's just, I love it. And if he can make mistakes, then so can I. And I think someone like James Allen sort of said to me, look, you can get this passionate into something. You don't have to necessarily know everything, because that's what you've got your co-commentator for. That's what I have my Austin for. I don't have to know everything. I just have to know enough. I'm obviously joking. I definitely put in 5 minutes of research before the race, don't I? But the fact of the matter is that I understand how the cars work, how it works technically. I'm not going to know everything. There's always going to be someone next to me that knows more. So what I sort of see is I just commentate over the race. I love motorsport. If it's got 4 wheels, the chances are I'm gonna like watching it. So, be it Mini Coopers racing around, or be it the fantastic Formula 1 cars we see today, I'm gonna love commentating over it. So, I'd say, as well as that, Crofty as well. I think he'll be an inspiration to future generations, because he's been around for quite a while now. You did have the short stint with Jonathan Ledyard. There's problems there, but Oh, you didn't get it. Oh, that's a shame. that was a reference, but never mind.
Yeah, I didn't get that one.
No, okay. All this problems. No, anyway. But I think as well, Crofty's going to be an inspiration to future commentators down the line. They're going to be hearing him, and he is passionate about the sport as well. That's the trick here, is if you're passionate about a sport and you're commentating over it, it will show. And as long as you keep that passion, then you can't go too far wrong when you're commentating over something. So when you have Murray Walker, as you rightly said, Justin, before, commentating over Damon Hill, finally winning that championship, and finally, Murray Walker saying, I have to stop because I've got a lump in my throat. That's the passion that really you can't capture unless you have it. You can't fake that sort of love and passion for the sport you're commentating over. You really have to be. It's either you love it or it doesn't show. As long as you're passionate about it, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? I think that's what the commentators I've grown up with have taught me. As long as you show that love for the sport, it's gonna show in your commentary.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. In particular, I would like to emphasize that I also like David Croft. He's part of the reason that I got back into Formula One, if I'm being completely honest, because I had taken a break for about 10 years away from racing when I was in my late teen years, early 20s, when I was caring more about girls and parties and being social and stuff like that, that kind of stuff.
Sorry, did you just say girls?
Yes.
Ew.
Yeah.
Not that podcast.
Right. So I kind of fell off of keeping in touch with Formula One and all of that kind of stuff. I was sort of like a loose fan. I've always been more of a fan of cars, honestly, than of racing. I've just been a car fan my entire life. When I was very little, I liked airplanes. But I think around the age of 10 or 11, I quickly realized that, I'm never going to get to fly, these airplanes that I idolize and stuff like that. That's just never going to happen. So that changed my passion from planes to cars. And then once I was sort of into cars, I started loosely following Formula One as a kid or as a young teenager, that kind of stuff. But that was the Schumacher era. And that got a little bit tiring after a little while. Michael's won again. So that's when I sort of kind of fell out of Formula One. Was I think Michael's third or fourth championship was when I stopped paying so much attention to it. And then in 2012, I happened to catch the Sky broadcast of the Australian Grand Prix, the very first race of the 2012 season. And, I was now 27, quite a bit older and a bit more mature and, had some free time in my life and stuff like that. And I thought, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to watch it. It had already aired. So I was like watching a rerun of it essentially or something. And immediately I fell back in love with Formula One. That 2012 Australian Grand Prix pulled me right back in. And I have not missed a race since then. And I became a Sauber fan during that race at Australia in 2012. And then I became a Sergio Perez fan the next race at Malaysia when he nearly won the dang race. And a big part of that is Crofty. And I know he makes mistakes, but I mean, all commentators make mistakes. You're never going to find a commentator that doesn't make mistakes. It's just, there are too many words coming out of our mouths not to have a mistake every once in a while. And I think Crofty does an incredible job of matching the intensity. He's not just yelling constantly. I don't like that style of commentary. But he yells when it gets, when it warrants yelling. And I think he's a fantastic commentator. He's definitely part of my inspiration. I'm also a big fan of James Allen, although I wasn't watching Formula One when he was doing commentary. So that's kind of a retroactive inspiration thing. I only learned about James Allen by watching like the season reviews and stuff like that. Once I got back into Formula One, I really do like James Allen's style though. Murray Walker is fantastic. The big inspiration for me though, on the digital side of things was Matty G. And that was probably the most nervous I've ever been ahead of a commentary. I tend not to get nervous doing commentaries for some strange reason. There might be some part of my brain missing or something like that. But I remember the one time I was really nervous was the first time that I was doing ARL commentary with Matty G. When they contacted, it was Fizzy Fan contacted me, and they had seen one of my videos, and they said, "Hey, Rapid Scorpion isn't going to make it for this race. You want to fill in for one race?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And I just remember, I mean, I was absolutely terrified. I was absolutely terrified because I knew, I watched those videos all the time, the ARL Xbox highlights with X-Matty G and Rapid Scorpion. I watched those every single week, and I was absolutely terrified. And I don't mean, I don't want to diminish anybody else, but to this day, I still believe X-Matty G is one of the most naturally talented commentators that has ever existed in sim racing. The way that guy could just go from a regular conversation like what we're doing now into boom, hardcore commentary. It was just unbelievable. It's like flicking a light switch for him. And he was never nervous. I mean, of course he had been doing it for a while at that point, but so I'd say probably my inspirations are X-Matty G, Matt Gallagher, and probably Crofty is probably next after that. I still really do like Crofty's commentary, despite the mistakes he might make.
Go on then, Austin. It's your turn.
Yeah. So for me, I started watching F1 when I was pretty young. I think one of the first races I watched was the 2001 Australian Grand Prix.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, I was about to be 8 years old, so I was still 7. And it was, if you remember, it was the race where Graham Beveridge, after the crash with, I think it was with Jacques Villeneuve and Ralf Schumacher, the wheel flew off and struck Graham Beveridge. And that was that race. It was one of the first ones I watched, and the race itself started so somber, and the commentator that I watched, obviously a German one. I mean, it was almost 8. His name is Jack. It's Jacques, like the French Jacques Schultz. And he was doing commentary for a long time. He's basically the German Murray Walker, if you will. He's been doing it so long, and I think he quit after, or he retired after the 2013 season, something like that. So he's been doing it for over 20 years and more, like really long time. And the way he matched the situation and the uncertainty with his voice was something that at that early age already fascinated me. That I instantly, when he toned down his voice, I instantly, as a 7-year-old, I instantly knew, something just happened and it's not good. Of course, at the time we didn't know that, we didn't even know that a Marshall was struck by a wheel. We just saw the crash where Villeneuve ran into the back of Schumacher. Was it the other way around? I don't even remember anymore. But that alone, when a car goes up, you always, especially at the time, 2001, you go,
yeah,
oh, that's not good. Now with those cars in 2019, you're a bit more like, I mean, yeah, he went up, but those cars are stable,
right,
man. But that was something that fascinated me early on, and then I kept watching, and a similar thing happened, and it dawned a little bit more on me in 2003 at the Brazilian Grand Prix when Fernando Alonso, in this crazy race, just absolutely crazy race, hit a tire in the middle of the straight and then went straight into the wall, where he also was able to match the situation really well. He instantly saw that because of the angle of the car and all that, he must have known that something wasn't right with Alonso there in 2003. And the way he matched it was always something for me. And then at the highs as well, when Schumacher won his 6th world title, was the first one to do it in 2003. that was also something. He was just yelling and screaming. Obviously, a German one did set a new record. Of course, as a German commentator, you're going to go a little bit more over the top than if it was, let's say, a Brit or an American or whatever. So he just went completely crazy, and just the way he managed, and it was always something that fascinated me. And then when I was 15, I started doing it myself in sim racing at the time. I was doing everything, I was driving, I was competing, I was doing race engineer, spotter, I was doing marshal, I was doing marshal, what's it called? Steward. I was doing safety car, which at the time in rFactor, I talked about this before. I don't need to extend on that. And so then someone approached me and said, "Hey, you want to do commentary?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'm going to try everything." And I instantly had fun at it. I wasn't good at it, I think if you start out as a commentator, first time you're gonna suck.
Oh yeah, guaranteed.
Every single one.
Guaranteed.
You're just gonna, it's gonna be horrible. But with experience, and some learn faster, some learn slower. Kieran got where he's at now in 2 years. It took me 11 to be where I'm now. But some learn faster, some learn slower, but with more experience. And that was just something that even as a child, as a 7, 8, 9-year-old, I was so impressed by what I was watching, and even more so what I was hearing. Now, it shifted a little bit for me. I for the most part, I wanted to be this play-by-play guy. But in recent years, it has shifted a little bit for me, and I try to specialize more in being the color commentator now, and trying to talk about strategy, talk about what's going on inside the head of a driver. Because as I said, I used to compete myself. I used to, back in the day on rFactor, win championships. I used to. I was second in a 24-hour race once with my team, and won a wheel because for the funny reason, I talked with Kieran about it before the podcast, before we went live, by setting the same lap time two laps in a row in a 24-hour race, and no one else was able to do it with a faster lap time.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was sponsored by Fanatec and everything. It was fun. But I have this experience of being a sim racing competitor, not on the highest level, granted, but in Germany on a pretty decent level. I'm going to say we were at the time. I was competing in some of the best German speaking sim racing leagues that were out there. And so I have this experience. I want to turn this into something. And if I'm in the booth, why not turn that into being a color commentator? And that's what keeps me going, keeps me doing it week after week after week. And it's so much fun trying to explain people who are just tuning in, just watching, maybe for the first time, what exactly is going on in that driver's head when they're 5 seconds ahead, but they're on older tires, And it's 3 laps to go, and they're just hanging on the win with their. Sorry, my English is my second language. I'm sorry, but you know what I mean, right? Like they're just barely hanging on to that win, and the danger is looming. Just stuff like that is what I just enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, I just love racing.
One thing I will say, actually, Justin, is that we're talking about our inspirations with the amount of F1 esports that you've done now. I mean, as we were saying, it's well into the 20s per year, per season, if you like. You could well be someone's inspiration further down the line. I mean, is there any tips you would give somebody who wants to make their first steps into commentary?
It would just be to get out there and do it. Honestly, there's nothing like experience. There's no other way. The only reason I even started with commentary wasn't because I said, "Hey, you know what? I think I could be a good commentator." It was just because my teammate at ARL, at Apex Racing League at the time, now AOR, my teammate said, "Hey, you want to make a YouTube channel?" And that was Mikko Mutalainen, my former teammate and former co-owner of our old YouTube channel, Box Gaming. Which don't go there; it doesn't get updated anymore. It's been like a year and a half since anything's been uploaded there, so I'm not plugging it or anything like that. But he said,
go check out Justin's YouTube channel, Box.
Yeah, I decided in, I think it was 2017. I said, I'm going to focus on doing commentary. The personal channel was doing all right, and I was having fun with it and stuff like that. But it was a lot of work, and because if you want to be successful on YouTube, you can't stop. You just cannot stop. You have to keep going no matter what. And I decided, I would rather just do that sort of stuff. But yeah, you probably want to just start with your own YouTube channel, the way that we did. Again, it was Mikko and I, but I would recommend that somebody, just make their own YouTube channel. Start with a league, do like league highlights, something like that. Find a league that either doesn't have commentators or doesn't have a split that doesn't have commentators. And just start there, because the whole reason we started was we were just making highlights for ARL PC Split 2, because at the time, really ARL was very focused on the Xbox side, because of course you had drivers like XMatty G and Noble 2909 and TRL Limitless, and a lot of big name guys, and that was really the focus. But we decided we wanted to make our own videos for PC Split 2. So we started doing that, and I found that I really enjoyed it. It was kind of a surprise to me because, again, I wasn't going into it like, yeah, I think I could be the best at this, and I'm gonna rock this, and I didn't have that kind of confidence or anything like that. I was like, why not? Let's try it. And then it turned out I loved it. Actually, I actually loved doing the commentary more than the actual driving itself. It turned out. And yeah, so you're gonna start out, and it's gonna be pretty rough if you go look at the first video on that Box channel. It's pretty rough, my commentary. You could tell that I'm very uncomfortable and I don't know what to say, and I don't even know what tone of voice to be using or anything like that. But, it just comes with experience, and you got to start small and work your way up, just like anything else in life. And yeah, it just takes a lot of practice and experience. And, you do have to be able to take comments and criticism. Not in the sense, you can ignore anybody that comes in and just says, "Oh, your commentary sucks." Okay, well, that's not helpful in any regard whatsoever. You could just ignore that. But if somebody comes in and, I remember when I was doing ARL, somebody told me, "You keep using the word absolutely." They said, "You keep saying the word absolutely all the time." And I said, okay, I got to stop saying absolutely. It's just little things like that I try to do to sort of improve my commentary game, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well played.
But I suppose then we should with that topic wrapped up in a bow.
I do have one more thing to add, because Justin said if anyone's watching who wants to start out as a commentator, you said just start doing a YouTube, or making a YouTube channel and just doing highlights or something like that. You also said, look for a league that has a split that doesn't have a commentator. And that's how I got started with AOR. Right. I did get started back in the day, 11 years ago, with someone approaching me, being like, "Hey, you want to commentate?" I was like, "Sure." I'm gonna try. It really worked out that way, because I used to do everything but competing at some point, back in the day, in one of those leagues. And so they say, "Hey, you want to commentate?" One of our commentators was unavailable at the time, and so they asked me, because I used to be, at the time, I think I was the safety car driver, and they said, "Yeah, we don't need to have a safety car. It's nice to have, but we'd rather have two commentators.
Right.
That's the priority." And so I was like, you know what, sure. For I think for one or two streams, I tried both. Worst decision ever. Because both times safety car came out, I had to come out. It's just don't try that. But there are multiple ways. There are multiple ways to get started. One is, as you said, make a YouTube channel, create some highlights, commentate over them. Another is just ask. Just ask any league that you may see somewhere and go, hey, you guys looking for commentators? I want to try,
Right. It's very likely you'll find a spot.
Yeah, exactly. Whether that's as a stand, let's say this the standard commentator for a split, or as a reserve commentator, where if someone's unavailable for a race, you're going to be asked to jump in. That's how I got to OneHub Racing. I just went and asked, guys, you looking for commentators? Because the thing is, I knew all 4 tiers they have. Yeah, they got commentators for all of them. But I was like, you know what? Hey, let me be the reserve. I'm okay with that.
There's going to be absences eventually.
Exactly. There were already 2, and I've only been with OneHub for, I think, less than a month. So that's how it works sometimes. So just ask. Just go to any league or anything and just ask. The worst thing that can happen is they'll say no.
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. But you're right, Austin. The worst thing they could possibly do is say, no, we're not at the moment, but thank you for asking. No is a word that gets said to me a lot. I sent out countless emails. And
yes, and I told you to stop.
Yes. Please answer, Austin. Please, I beg of you. The podcast is the only way I can talk to you now. Anyway.
Wow.
But yeah, so the trick with it is you've got to send out email after email, and I guarantee you 90% of them will not get a response, if that. You've got to be prepared to really dig in and see who is actually running these organizations. And the tip is to, as you say, start out small. The way I got into it was I looked on the PS4 communities page, and I looked through the F1 at the time, which was F1 2017. And I looked through the community boards. I looked through and see if anybody was looking for commentators, and there were. And I sent them a message. The message was about 3 months old, but I said, "Are you still looking for a commentator?" They said, "Yes." Here we are, about 2 years later. It's just incredible how quickly it's gone. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with asking, because the worst possible thing, as Austin said, is they just say no. There's no real harm in that.
Nope, not at all. And sometimes you got to say no too once you reach a certain level as well. Because I used to, when I was first starting out, I would say yes to everything. People would ask me, "Do you want to do this?" Yes. "Do you want to do this?" Yes. Just no matter what it was, any size, anything at all, I was there. I was ready to do commentary. But as you grow, get more of a following, get more established, and that sort of stuff, you don't want to be afraid to say no every once in a while, especially if you're already very busy and got a lot going on your plate.
Yeah, and you got to manage your time yourself. I've seen some commentators or some aspiring commentators turning down commentary gigs, let's say, because they felt like it was, I don't want to say it was beneath them, but that was kind of the underlying sentiment.
It's the right words. Let's be honest.
And I was thinking, I was like, take it. You have time on your hands,
right? If you got the time, and there's nothing else going on, then
exactly.
Absolutely,
just take it. The only reason for you to ever, the only 2 to 3 reasons for you to ever turn down a commentary offer, if you want to go into that field, one, you don't have enough time. You're busy. You're too busy already, or at that particular time slot, you're busy with real life stuff or whatever. You can't do it because you don't have the time. Second reason, let's say the communication with the league is, let's say, less than ideal. I've seen that before. That there are leagues out there, and I'm not going to name any names, that would be unprofessional, but there are leagues out there where the people running the league are not as as nice and friendly as you would hope they would be, and at least a decent level of respect. We're all humans, we can all try to get along with each other. I think that's something that is very necessary. If you don't feel it, if you go, Yeah, come on. You're just being an a-hole. Then that's something where you could turn down something as well. Or if there's been known issues in the past where they've been bad to other commentators that then left. If there's been something like that, it's fine to turn down as well. But in any other case, if you feel like something's beneath you, just no. If you have the time, do it. More experience, more chances for you to be seen and found and discovered, and just go ahead and do it.
Yep, I'd agree.
Well, I say we've got time. If you've got time, Justin, we've got time for topics. What have you got next for us, Austin?
Well, we're already at an hour 15. Usually that's our typical length. So I think we would now switch to our personal moment of the week already. Or you want to go for... The thing is, we do have one pretty actual topic that's pretty date dependent. That's this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Need for Speed Heat releasing on Friday. And
I'm not a huge Need for Speed fan. Oh, brace for impact. No, I'm not its biggest fan. I don't really play it, but I see the appeal. I'm having a look at it right now. I see the appeal. There is an appeal, but apparently this one's going to commemorate 25 years. What?
Yeah,
of Need for Speed.
I remember playing the second Need for Speed. I'm not talking about Need for Speed Underground 2 or something like that. No.
Need for Speed 2.
Need for Speed 2. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I played 1 and 2. In fact, I think they came on floppy disks when I installed them.
Okay, so no, I had 2 on a CD.
Okay.
it was a golden. It might have been. I think it was called Need for Speed 2 Special Edition or something like that. I had a special edition.
That sounds right. Right.
Yeah, I had it from my older brother, who he was playing it, and then when I grew up, I was playing it on the PC on my parents' office PC. So it was exactly a gaming PC, but there were no gaming.
Well,
PCs
every PC was a gaming PC back then.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember it was compared to today. Obviously, it was bad, but it was fun at the time. It was really fun. And then the next one for me was Need for Speed Underground, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, to this day, I think is so far the greatest Need for Speed. I know a lot of people would argue that Need for Speed Underground 2 was better, because for a lot of people, Need for Speed Underground 2 was the first one that they played.
Yep.
For me, Need for Speed Underground 1 was the first one I played, and man, I was sinking so many hours into that game. And
I liked them both. I liked Underground and Underground 2.
Yeah, I like Underground 2 as well. I'm just saying Underground 1 for me was the best. Underground 2 was very good as well. Don't get me wrong there. But Underground 1, I could probably turn that. If I had, I think I may still have it somewhere.
One of those had crossplay compatibility, by the way. That might be a not very known thing. I think it was Need for Speed Underground 1. I think the first one had the crossplay, but I distinctly remember playing on my PlayStation 2, which was connected to a dial-up internet connection, and playing it against my friend who was on PC. And I remember that was like one of the few. I mean, honestly, it's still pretty rare these days to have crossplay, but that was my first ever experience with cross. And I just remember thinking like, wow, this is the future. And I was so wrong.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. I wish that a lot more game developers would go that route. Especially in racing games. I understand that in shooter games and stuff, it's hard because, if you're aiming with different devices, that's tough.
Yeah,
I like to say if you're playing a shooter game with a gamepad, with a controller, it's like playing a violin with a pepperoni sausage.
Right.
It's just wrong. Don't do it. Unless there's no other way. But no, you play a shooter game with keyboard and mouse because it just gives you such a huge advantage. But racing games, I mean, who plays racing games with a keyboard? Just, I would like to know that, but
I've done GTA on keyboard. I've done Grand
it's
Theft
not a
Auto.
racing game.
But I was doing a lot of racing in it.
Okay, fair enough. But to be fair, someone like Fail Race or Bruffy1322 would probably disagree with me on it not being a racing game. It's a racing game if you want it to be.
Right.
But yeah, for the most part, you're gonna play racing games with a controller.
Mm-hmm.
So
I do like the fact that this is supposed to be about Need for Speed Heat, and we've gone back to the first two.
That's right. I actually have not played a Need for Speed game since I want to say I think it was called Carbon on Xbox 360.
Yeah.
I think that was the last one that I played.
I've played that too, and I didn't like it. I played it, and to be fair, I have to say I played it once at a friend's house. She had it, I didn't. So I played at her house, but I didn't like it.
Need for Speed always felt clunky to me. It never felt like I was able to be smooth with Need for Speed. At least the recent ones, anyway. It always felt a little on the clunky side.
I have to say I disagree on the Underground games.
Oh no, yeah, Underground felt amazing. I could drift my car constantly in Underground.
Oh god,
that's different.
I was so good at drifting in that game. Everyone probably
but yeah,
was.
the newer gen ones, so PS3 and Xbox 360 and forward. Because I played Carbon and one other one on the 360/PS3 generation, and yeah, it just felt really clunky. It didn't feel at all like Underground, and I think that's why I didn't like it.
Yeah, I have to say I played Payback, which is the most recent one of all the released ones. Need for Speed Heat being the next one in 3 days. And Payback, I think, is from 2017. So they usually release every 2 years. And it didn't feel as clunky. The drifting, which is usually where it's the easiest to tell how clunky it is, felt actually pretty controllable.
I mean, the Need for Speed, the last one I played was Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, or 2002. I mean, I don't really play the Need for Speed games. I'm more of the realism or nothing kind of thing.
I like a mix. I like Forza Horizon is the perfect mix for me.
And that's the thing. That's a shame because I've missed out on some fantastic, arcade races. I really have. I mean, there was one, to go completely off the tangent, but Test Drive Unlimited still
that was a fun one.
Driving games of all time, and because I was so suckered in from a young age by it needs to be realistic. This isn't realistic. You can't drift a car like that. I missed out on some great arcade racer hits. I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too late.
You're
Need
right.
for Speed Heat is going to release in 3 days.
And we're back to where we started with it.
Yes, I got to say, though, looking at what I've seen in terms of trailers and stuff like that, and what they promise of where they want to go with that title, I think if it's what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it feel more like the Underground 2 games.
I've heard they've had a lot of work on this latest one with the physics and the feel and all that kind of stuff. So I've heard that was a big focus for them. If there's a demo or something, I might try it out. Otherwise, I might just check it out via YouTube. I know like Arav is doing a bunch of stuff with Need for Speed Heat, so
he's got
his stuff.
He's got his logo as a decal in the game.
He's in the game. Well, not his face, but his brand is in the game.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
That's how you know.
Yeah,
exactly. But I'm looking forward to it. I haven't pre-ordered it yet. Probably won't.
The aesthetic is beautiful. I'll say that. Like the advertising and just like the whole visual side of it, they've done an amazing job with that.
Yeah, definitely. The question is the game going to be any good? Is what I always also look into, because I think with Need for Speed Payback, they've done a pretty good job at that, is the storyline. They have there is a storyline in every Need for Speed since, probably Carbon, but Most Wanted as well. I think it was a long.
Yeah,
time.
there was
I
some
think-
story in Most Wanted.
Yeah. And that's something with, having played Payback quite recently, that's an aspect that I'm very interested to. And I like this idea that, you're going to have to drive differently during the day and at night. That idea,
Sort
that
of two
gives
games
it,
in one.
yeah, gives it a whole twist that I'm very interested in. And I'm very interested to see how they actually did it, how they applied it to the game. I mean, at this point, it's just a concept for us who haven't played the game, who only saw maybe a trailer or something like that. It's just a concept, the idea of, day and night change actually affecting your driving and all that. And the police chases as well, apparently. But how they actually did it, how they actually applied it, that's a whole different story. And I'm interested to see how they did it. I don't know when I'll get the game. I'm thinking about getting it quite soon after release, depending on what the price is going to be. It's always this $60, 70 euros. It's a AAA title. What are you going to expect?
Right. Yeah.
Well, as well, just to point out, we've gone from we'll go to the arcade. We've got the sim side of it. It's been announced pretty recently, actually, that the RF2 4H, the rFactor 24-hour rerun, is actually happening on the 9th of November. Total prize pool, by the way, 15,000 euros. There's a lot of money on the line here. But if you the qualifiers, I think, are open now. I'm just trying to see now. I think they're open now. But yeah, go check that out if you want to. And yeah, maybe we'll see you.
Yeah.
I don't know what you like with 24-hour. I love 24-hour races. I adore.
As I said, I've competed in some. So
well, no, you must not like them then.
yeah, I really hate them.
No, absolutely don't.
Also, don't Google RF24H. You'll get some. You get refrigerators from Samsung.
It's a model number, clearly.
Yeah.
Or something.
You know what? I'll be happy with that.
Google rFactor 24H instead.
So if you like sim racing and you need a refrigerator, you know where to go.
Yes.
Samsung's got you covered.
Yeah.
You are one stop for everything. Absolutely. But yeah, go check that out if you want to. I had all the information I needed to. There we go. You're quite far. You need to set a fastest lap in the qualifier before 23:59:59 Central European time on November the 6th. Basically, go follow. Yeah, basically tomorrow. You haven't got long.
Yeah, about 24 hours.
Yeah, so go get it. Go get it.
Which
now.
is quite ironic considering that's how long the race is.
Right.
You have one race to sign up.
Yeah, you have one race length.
So I think that's going to bring us pretty neatly now, Austin, on to our last topic of the night. And it's flown by. It really has flown
Yeah, it really has. Personal moment of the week is the last one.
I mean, Justin and I have started one topic. I think it's your turn now, Austin.
Okay, all right. My personal moment of the week is gonna come up. It's not in the past; it's in the future, and it's gonna be on Friday. I have a job interview with a local media company, and I'm very. I wouldn't say nervous. I am excited. I'm not as much nervous, but. Man, that would be great.
Yeah, good luck to you, man. You'll
Thanks.
I know you will.
Mm-hmm. Best of luck indeed.
And hopefully you will get it. Hopefully, but at this time, 2 weeks' time, you'll be telling us all about your lovely new job.
I'm not sure they're gonna be, after the job interview. I don't think I'll get it right there on the spot on Friday.
It could happen.
Spot. I had that before. I pulled up on my drive after an interview and I had the job offer right there. You never
Yes. Oh,
you
wow.
never know.
Okay.
Well, good luck, Austin, and you'll
Thanks.
smash it. I know you will. And how about you, Justin? Personal moment of the week? But could be last week, could be this week coming.
Well, since it didn't have to be commentary related or anything like that, I'm going to go ahead and say it was when the Veloce Rocket League team qualified for the World Finals on Sunday. as a top 2 team in Europe, despite not even qualifying technically and only getting in because another team disbanded. And then we went 5-2 during regular season and ended the season we were nearly, very, very nearly ranked number 1 in all of Europe at the end of the season. I still think we should have beaten TSM and gone 6-1. I think 6-1 has a better ring to it than 5-2, but I'll take it. We're guaranteed to go to Madrid. We don't have to do any of that knockout stuff that the other 4 teams have to do in the EU. But yeah, I don't play Rocket League, believe it or not. I think I have like an hour in Rocket League. Like somebody gifted it to me one time, and I played one time at night once. Yeah, I don't play Rocket League. And I have no intention of playing Rocket League, especially after starting to watch RLCS, because I see what these guys are doing, and I'm like, nope, I am not prepared to invest 500 hours of my life to get even a quarter of this skill.
Yeah, I was about to say 500 hours is going to be way short.
Yeah, exactly.
I've dumped over 1,000 hours into it, and I'm not nearly half as good as they are.
Exactly. So yeah, I have no intentions of starting playing, but I have to say, 2019 I will probably always remember as the year that I got into spectating Rocket League anyway. But yeah, it makes my job as a social media manager a lot easier when we're doing so dang well. So that makes my job so much easier. It's a lot easier to be, sending tweets out about hype and stuff like that than to say, oh, we lost again. So yeah, that was huge for me. I've been, ever since the start of this season, I've watched every single game, and I've really been getting into it. And I was screaming and clapping and cheering and all of that kind of stuff when we won that game on Sunday. And yeah, I'm just thrilled.
And you can do more of that in Madrid then.
Well, I don't think I'm going to Madrid. We're going to have other members from Velace that go to Madrid, and then they'll be feeding me content from their phones and stuff like that. But I'm still very excited.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, you're going to send 4 people there, 3 competitors, obviously, Flame, Freaking, Casio.
Probably at least 5, possibly as many as 6 or 7, though, potentially. Yeah, I think it depends on how many tickets we get and that sort of thing. But yeah, minimum of 5, possibly even 6, because we have a coach. We have Mystic.
Yeah, exactly. Mystic. Yeah. That's why I said 4. I said, the 3 competitors and the coach, Mystic.
Oh, right. Yeah, so yeah, definitely. And then also we're definitely going to have somebody there capturing pictures and video and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, a minimum of 5.
It's gotta be 6 or 7 probably.
I would expect 6, but minimum of 5. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. I had no idea how exciting Rocket League could be as a spectator sport, honestly.
I'm gonna tell you this.
Really good.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you this. Stick around for Season 9. Stay with Veloce for that, because most likely Season 9 finals are going to be in North America again. So that means you might actually be sent there because you have the shorter way,
And speaking of, just to throw it back, this coming back to where we started, I have to say, I'm definitely inspired by the Rocket League commentators that I've heard. I think they're all American except for one guy, at least in the RLCS. They're all American except for, I think there's one Canadian, which means he just kind of sounds like a kind of funny American. But
that's one way to put it. Well, the host, LeafX, is Canadian.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. But all of their commentators are so good. I have to say, I was really impressed with the commentary. And I think that's part of the reason that I get so excited during the games and stuff like that is similar to Crofty, as I was mentioned before. They do a great job of sort of matching the intensity of the game or the match or whatever. And it's really just pulled me into the whole Rocket League esports scene.
Yeah.
And I guess I have to round it off again. So emotional moments. Cheers, guys. No pressure. But if you didn't know, I went to Snetterton last weekend. My last time, I was sort of saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to Snetterton. It's going to be great," and it was great. It was fantastic. I would plug the 2 YouTube links, but you can go follow me on Twitter if you really want to. Don't bring it up. Austin, don't bring it up.
I have the cursor over it right now.
But yeah, no, it was great fun. I got to manage. I met Chris Dawes, who's been in the Coventry game for 8 years now. So it was really good to get some tips off of him as well. And yeah, something I wasn't expecting was a stream, and I'm on a stream. I actually do a race. I've only done the Buckmore 24 hour before in terms of real commentary, so to be there for the whole weekend was just amazing, and I'd do it all over again. I really would.
I don't know what that's like to do real life commentary. That's one thing that I still haven't done, despite the 5.5 years of experience that I have. I still have not. I've actually reached out even to my local go-kart track, which is they're like a chain. They're all across Texas. I think some other states as well too. It's called K1 Speed. I know there's one in Austin, Texas, not inside the person, Austin. And
I would be worried if there was one inside me.
There's a go-kart track inside you. So
that would be cool.
I contacted them and I was like, hey, I do F1 Esports commentary. Here's some links, stuff like that. And I told them, I would be interested in kind of dipping my toe into the proverbial waters of real life commentary by. I told them, maybe not like as an everyday thing. I wasn't necessarily looking for this to become my regular job, but I do know that like corporations will rent out the entire facility for an entire day as like a corporate retreat sort of thing. And I was telling them, maybe I could do commentary for those types of events specifically. They never got back to me in any fashion whatsoever. Never responded to my email. Never even gave it a second look, I don't think, unfortunately. Which, as we talked about before, though, that's the worst thing that can happen when it comes to putting yourself out there. So, I'm not that bothered about it. But yeah, I haven't done any commentary on anything in real life, nor have I ever done commentary where somebody is sitting next to me. Because that's something you mentioned, Austin, when you were talking about doing the football commentaries. You had the guy there right next to you. You could hug him and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I've never done that
in the
either.
stadium, so it was real life too. So.
Right, exactly. So you got to experience both things. I know my co-commentator for the F1 Esports, Chris Kinkodiak. I know he's done stuff at the Gfinity Arena. He's done commentary alongside X-Matty G. He's done various things. Either. If not real life racing, then at the very least he's done it there and in person. And I do know that F1 Esports eventually, there's been talks about flying me out there for F1 Esports and stuff like that. And I know it's something that could potentially happen in the future for the qualifying rounds, not for the Pro Series. I'm not coming in to replace Jack Nicholls or anything like that. Oh, he's another great inspiration, by the way. It's not something that's guaranteed to happen or anything like that, but it is something that I'm very much excited about trying. I've never stood next to someone and done commentary. I've never done commentary on actual cars or karts that are going around a circuit, and that makes me very jealous.
I won't say if, I'll say when you get the opportunity.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
It is amazing. It's well worth it. So, I think we've run out of things to talk about, have we, Austin? We don't have a lot left. I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we are usually closing out with the personal moment of the week anyway, so,
That's true. So that pretty much will wrap it up then. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure, Justin. I hope you've enjoyed your stay.
Absolutely. I had a blast. Thank you so much for having me on.
And if you want to go and follow Justin on Twitter, you can. It's at Justin Talks F1. There it is along the bottom of the screen. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's podcast as well. Hopefully we'll be back in about 2 weeks' time for the next episode, Austin.
Yeah, and if you need a little bit more of sim racing in your life, you can also follow Kieran on Twitter. I'm not going to say you're better at that.
Wait, it's KSM. It's literally you spell it out. KSM.
Yeah, okay.
It's so
McGiff.
Kiss McGiff. Get it trending. And if you want to follow the lovely Austin on Twitter, you can do with this at the Badgerman, where the E, the second E, is a 3.
Is there a Badgerman without the 3? I've never asked this before, but I'm curious now. There is?
Yes,
okay.
That's the issue.
That jerk.
That's the issue. By the way, on both Twitter and Twitch, I originally, when I started streaming on Twitch, I was looking to get that name, and someone else already had it. And I think it's not because someone called themselves Badger Man, but because someone actually called themselves Bad German, which is where the whole,
yeah.
So I think it's another German person who took
funny.
that, and I'm just I'm left hanging. And I had to come up with a solution, and the 3 in the middle is
That person might be your soulmate or something. You should contact them.
No, he took my name. I hate him forever.
Well, make sure you follow the right Badger Man on Twitter. Once again, Justin, thank you so much for joining us. It's been
My
an
pleasure.
absolute pleasure.
My pleasure.
And hopefully, Austin, I'll see you in about 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, maybe before the AOR should come back out of break at some point.
That's
I mean,
right.
now that the 2 real life Grand Prix are over, I think we should talk on Sunday.
We should. Yeah, we should be there on Sunday. So AOR, F3, PS4, come and join us. That was a lot of numbers there. I had to get the right numbers in the right places. But yes, make sure you join us for F4 on PS3 coming on Sunday. Right.
Wrong order.
Nailed it.
I know. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We hope to see you in about 2 weeks' time. Thank you again to Justin for joining us. It's been a fantastic show. And hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Take care of yourselves. It's goodbye from me, Kieran.
From me, Austin.
And for me, Justin.
Take care of yourselves. We will see you next time.